Hello, namaste. Welcome to Bhagavatam for Rationalists. My name is Kamalakar Gulukota, and this is a 7-day web series about Bhagavatam. This episode 36 begins our day 6 of the 7-day web series, and in this episode, we will see Krishna and Balarama going from Vrindavan to Mathura. But before we get on with the story, let's quickly recap as we do at the beginning of every day. We have said that Bhagavatam is significant and important to learn, even if you're a rationalist, for three reasons. The first reason is that it helps you live a better life. And we have seen examples of this as we covered Sankhya Yoga, as we covered Bhakti Yoga, as we covered the various intense feelings we might have toward each other, whether it is love for children or youthful infatuation, how it is important to convert those things to something more divine and more sublime than to have a simple selfish channel for those. So, we will see other ways in which Bhagavatam gives us a message to help us live a better life. The second reason we talked about was cultural literacy. We have seen many examples of culture in the form of song and dance and music and poetry and sculpture and so forth. Um, and we are going to see more examples of those. So the culture all around us is infused with stories and messages that come from Bhagavatam. And having an understanding of Bhagavatam will help you appreciate these cultural elements better, help you get some cultural literacy. And the final reason for learning about Bhagavatam is simply that it has breathtakingly beautiful poetry, and that poetry is included. What we are covering is the Andhra Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavatam in Telugu. It was written by Bammera Potana in the 15th century. It was a translation of Vyasa Bhagavatam, which was written in 500 BC by Vyasa, but that was written in Sanskrit, and Potana translated it into Telugu in the 15th century. However, we're not following it page by page, skanda by skanda. We reorganized it for narrative purposes, and that narrative is in the form of nested conversations. The story began with Suta giving a speech, and in that speech, he talks about the dialogue between Emperor Parikshit and Maharshi Shuka, because Parikshit was cursed due to an angry outburst he had at a Maharshi. He was cursed that he would die of snake bite within 7 days. And during those 7 days, Parikshit and Maharshi Shuka are having a dialogue. Within that dialogue, there are a number of sub dialogues, notably one between Brahma and Narada. So Shuka told Parikshit that Krishna had saved his life before. When Parikshit was in his mother's womb, Ashwathama tried to abort his mother, but Krishna saved him from that. And so Shuka says, he saved your life before, he can save your soul now if you learn about his story. But Krishna's story is, of course, not a single birth to single death. It's not a single lifetime. He has had millions of avatars before that. Specifically, we talked about two lists of avatars, about 25 avatars from those two lists. One is a list of 21 avatars that Suta gave in the very beginning of his speech. Another is a list of 23 avatars that Brahma gave during his conversation with Narada. Between those two lists, there are 25 avatars, and we've been covering them. For example, we covered avatars in brief, like Pruthu and Suyagnya and Kapila and Kaumara and Vedavyasa. And then we covered some Kshipra avatars, avatars that are available or are visible only for a brief period of time, including Varaha avataram, Kurma avataram, Mohini, Narasimha, and Adimula. We covered some avatars with some sort of an astronomical context, like Dhruva avataram, Vamana avataram, Matsya avataram. And then, yes, on day 4, we covered the three Ramas, namely Parashurama, and we covered Rama Avataram in the form of the story of Sri Rama, And we also covered the birth of Balarama. So, toward the end of day 4, we covered the birth of Balarama, who is the elder brother of Krishna, as well as the birth of Krishna himself. Yesterday, day 5, we covered their childhood and saw Krishna and Balarama growing up to be, teenagers. Today, on day 6, we are going to talk about the adulthood of Krishna and Balaram. So, because we've been going through it for a while, it is useful to quickly recap Krishna's story so far. Devaki and Vasudev were Krishna's parents and Balarama's parents as well, and they were imprisoned by the tyrant Kamsa in Mathura because Kamsa was convinced by his own auditory hallucinations, what he called Ashariravani, sound that has no body that is making that sound. That Ashariravani told him, and he is convinced that Devaki's eighth child will kill him. So he imprisons Devaki and Vasudev, and as Devaki gets pregnant, he keeps killing their children. He kills the first six of those children. Devaki's seventh pregnancy is saved because it got transplanted to Rohini. Rohini is a lady in Gokulam, and the seventh pregnancy transplanted to Rohini's womb. Rohini gives birth, and that child grows up to be Balarama. The eighth pregnancy, when is born actually in prison, then that's Krishna. But baby Krishna is then exchanged with a stillborn baby girl who Lady Yashoda had given birth to also in Gokulam. So Rohini and Yashoda, along with Yashoda's husband Nanda, are taking care of Krishna and Balaram in Gokulam. And in Gokulam, we saw beautiful stories of them growing up. They were beloved by everyone, by Yashoda and Rohini and the other ladies in Gokulam who saw them with maternal love, by Nanda and other men who saw them with a fatherly love, paternal love, by the other Gopala boys and also the Gopikas, the young girls in Gokulam, because the boys were really impressed with all the adventures that Krishna and Balaram would be having. And the Gopikas had especially a special bond with Krishna. And in the last two episodes, we covered the love, the kind of a romantic love or infatuation between them, which was still channeled into kind of the divine channel as they recognized that Krishna is a divine being. And because they performed divine miracles like killing a caravan of Asura villains, cleaning the Yamuna of Kaliya and poisonous snakes, lifting the Govardhan mountain, controlling wildfire. They've performed any number of miracles. So everyone in in Gokulam, are convinced that Krishna and Balaram are divine beings. So all of these claims of divinity convince Kamsa also in Mathura that Krishna is the eighth child. Because remember, these claims are not restricted to Gokulam, they do in fact spread. So he sends even more demons to kill Krishna, and those demons also get killed. So Aghasura, who comes in the form of a python, he was the brother of Bakasura, remember the goose Asura, and Aghasura gets killed by Krishna. Then there is a Vrishabhasura, there is a Asura named Arishta who comes disguised as a bull, and he also gets killed. And the last one sent by Kamsa was an Asura called Keshi, the one with very long hair, and he also gets killed by Krishna. In the middle, there is Dhenukasura, or an Asura that comes in the form of a donkey, and that one gets killed by Balarama. So, Kamsa is therefore worried. He still believes his Ashariravani. It had warned him that the eighth child would kill him. And he sees Krishna, who he's convinced is now the eighth child, is getting stronger by the day and, and has been killing all the asuras that he sent to stop him. And he says, no, I must kill Krishna before it gets too late, before he gets even stronger. And he thinks that Vrindavan is Krishna and Balaram's stronghold. They have a great deal of strength there because everyone supports them, believes them that they are God. So, because all the asuras he sent there are getting killed, he says, I must somehow think of a way to bring the boys back to Mathura. Because in Mathura, he can set a threefold assault in place. He has a war elephant called Kuvalayapidam. The mahat of that war elephant is someone who is devoted to Kamsa, and therefore he can have this war elephant go and attack the brothers and kill them. If that somehow fails, he can set up these two wrestlers known as Chanura and Mushtika. He can set up a wrestling match between the brothers and these two. And obviously, this seasoned, strong wrestlers would be able to take care of two Gopala boys. But if that also fails, then Kamsa thinks that he would have his troops at the ready and he himself would kill Krishna and Balarama. So that threefold assault can be planned in Mathura and it is done. The only problem now is how to bring the brothers to Mathura. They are not just going to arrive, right? So he invents, Kamsa does, a pretext known as Dhanuryagam, and he sends a suitable ambassador, a kindly old man called Akroora. Now, Akroora is suitable because all the asuras that Kamsa is sending are getting killed, but Akroora is a kindly old man who actually believes in Krishna's divinity. He believes all this talk about Krishna being God's avatar. So Kamsa thinks he'll succeed. Now, Akroora is in Kamsa's employ, so he gives him a mission. Kamsa does bring Krishna and Balaram back to Mathura. Tell them that I'm doing Dhanuryagam and that I want them to attend. So Akroora goes to Vrindavan, and on the way, he is wondering. Now, as someone who's been in royal employ, he knows that, these royalty, these powerful people, you can't really believe them or trust them. So, itada కంసునిచేత పంపువడి నన్హంసింపనేతెంచినాడతి దుష్టుండని చూచునో సకల భూతాంతర్బహిర్మధ్య సంగతుడౌటం తలపోసి నన్ను సుజనుంగా జూచునో ఎట్టియున్నతి గావించునో ఏ క్రియం బల్కునో నా భాగ్యమెట్లున్నదో. So he's wondering, will Krishna think this man was sent by Kamsa just like all the other asuras? He's evil, he's here to assault me. Or because he knows the inside, outside, and middle of all beings, will he know my heart and think of me as good? How will he behave toward me? How is my fortune? So remember, we talked about when we talked about Gajendra, he says, everyone says, Kaladu Kalandanadu Vadu Kalado Ledu. Everyone insists that he exists, but does he really exist? Gajendra worried about God. And Akroora, the same thing. He heard from everyone. Everyone says that Krishna is God's avatar. But is that really true? Will he look at me just like he did all asuras, or will he know my heart because he is God and therefore will see kindly about me? Anyway, when he comes to Krishna, Krishna accepts the invitation and he says, oh, sure, the king is doing Dhanuryagam, we will be glad to come. And the men of Vrindavan, all the Gopala boys and Nanda and all the other men, they gladly accompany Krishna, saying, well, we're not going to leave you alone. Who knows what they're going to do? The ladies, of course, don't accompany them. The older women worry, but they say, all right, we can't really stop you. This is the king sending a message after all. The Gopikas, the young ladies, of course, are angry about it. They think Akroora is actually Krura. Krura means the cruel one. Akroora means the uncruel one or the kind one. And they think, no, 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 his name is a misnomer. He is actually Krura. He is cruel. He's taking Krishna away from us. So he cannot be Akroora. Anyhow, Krishna and Balaram reach Mathura, at which time Akroora tells them, please come and stay at my house. But Krishna declines and says, we'll come and visit you, but after the tyrant Kamsa and people's nemesis, he has been dealt with. So, the three challenges that are awaiting Krishna and Balaram in Mathura, how are they going to overcome that? We will cover that in the next episode. I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for your attention so far.